Take the first step. Make that move. Take the risk. Don't go the easy way. The comfort zone is great, but nothing really grows there. Dare to discover. Choose the right over the safe. Be curious about every little thing. It takes courage to dream big. Dream anyway. It takes strength to dig deep. Dig all the way. Dare to explore. Open that door. Live to the fullest. Make every second count. Don't stay too long where you don't belong, but be there long enough to learn your lesson. Know when it's time to move on. When the going gets tough, remember why you started. Dare to meet new people. Find a world of variety. Enjoy new flavors, taste new savors. Embark on a journey through our wines and revel in the richness they bring to the table. Embrace happiness with each clink of a glass. Don't settle, never settle. Good things take time, but opting for excellence is a choice. Dare to seek it out and raise a glass in celebration. Silk and spice, meant to be discovered.
Test, test. There we go. Okay, hopefully the pointer works here. Hey everyone, I'm having a proud father moment right now. Proud mom moment here. Yeah, thank you everyone for giving us this opportunity at Diving Tales and Diving Talks in general. My name is Kirk Krack. And we are here as a father and daughter team. They tell me the pointer works. So you better advance it because it's not working. Nope, too far. Much too far. There we go. Okay, so we're here to tell you and explain a little bit of our experiences on Avatar and working on Avatar, there we go, as a father-daughter duo in a way. So interesting thing about Avatar is we just found out that just a couple days ago that on November 7th, Disney Plus is going to have a behind the scenes, a new thing in relation to Fire and Ash coming out. So we're excited because it's going to be like a whole behind the scenes into the Marine unit and what we did. And so that's quite interesting, right? You know, the Marine unit working on it and that sort of thing.
We get asked a lot of questions as to what it was like working on Avatar.
And additionally, people want to know, like, not just how we worked on Avatar, but how could they work on Avatar, right? So that's what's the secret? How do I get on Avatar? What do I have to do?
So we've made this short presentation to give you a guide on how to work on Avatar.
So in 2023, we attended the LA premiere of Avatar, which was pretty amazing, and that was a special thing. So myself and Kaila and John Garvin. John Garvin was the Marine Unit Coordinator and became a really good friend of ours. And John and I were, in our 50s at that time. Kaila's 13 here. So, really interesting, right?
But it started when I was 7.
So yes, she didn't start on 13. So you can imagine 7 years old to 13 years old, the amount of time we worked on this movie. And this movie was the most significant diving movie ever done. We spent 7 years making this thing, bringing James Cameron's vision to life. And so that was a pretty cool thing. So how do you get to work on Avatar? So it's really simple. It's actually really, really simple. First off, when you're in high school, become a lifeguard and a swimming instructor. Make sure that by 20 years old, you're a scuba instructor. And then make sure in 1989, you watch the movie The Abyss in the theaters, because eventually you'd go work for James Cameron, right?
Okay, and obviously I'm not 20, but I have done the lifeguarding and swim instructor part. So what I found really helps is having two parents who are a big part of the diving community and have them start you in the water at a young age.
I've found that also what helps is to make sure that in the 90s you're a technical diver, a mixed gas diving instructor trainer. Maybe you have a dive shop in the Cayman Islands where you're doing dives into the 170 meter range, 6.5 hours of decompression. All of these skills and these experiences will eventually lend to you getting a job on Avatar. So, follow the recipe right now.
And have parents who start you on breath hold survival training at 4.
2, 3.
We might have turned a few eyes in the pool. The pool manager might have come up and said, "Are you sure you want to be doing this with your 4-year-old?"
What do you mean? We never got stink eyes.
Practicing surfer girl move.
So another thing that'll help is make sure that you've trained 7 people to 23 world records in the sport of freediving and breath hold diving. So that's going to help.
And have one of them be your mom.
Who
With
did 7 world records. Working with athletes of different calibers and different sports to have that kind of ability to cross-train and think on your feet's important. So like Red Bull here, working with their skiers and their snowboarders and their video gamers. Why would we train them and do that? So that human performance element, that was really important.
And have your parents make you dive a meter for every year of your age. And then have you compete in kids' comps with your mom as your bottom safety. Yeah, I totally wanted to.
Make sure you design one of the world's first fully integrated freediving training systems. So that's going to help because you got to train the people how to freedive and breath hold in the first place.
Celebrate every achievement. I'm saying I got to 1 minute and 10 seconds on static apnea at 7.
Yeah. It's a little funnier if you can hear the
I'm
sound behind it.
singing.
She's like, I got 1 minute, 10 seconds. I got 1 minute and 10 seconds. Let's see. So make sure that you've worked on a couple of documentaries and you've worked on some major motion pictures before, training the cast and crew. And that's Mom, right
with
there.
With the dolphins.
Yeah, with the dolphins.
Go into swim club and win some awards.
And make sure you train animals. Make sure you train dogs and cats and seals. That's going to help, right? Working with different animals in the ocean.
Make sure you have the support of your family. They say it takes a village.
And always innovate. Always try to be cutting edge. So in this case, this is technical scooter freediving, Chuk or Truck Lagoon, and technical freediving, the use of elevated oxygen mixtures before or after free dives on breath hold can help you stay longer. And, so that's something that I've been developing for quite a while and brought to Avatar. So ultimately, you want to work for people who inspire you to be better, people like James Cameron.
Or have someone that when you say you met them, all your friends and their parents think you're lying.
So one of the things about Avatar that was amazing, and it being the most significant diving movie in the world, that's really been created and the amount of water action that happened is to understand that James Cameron's vision is about showing the reality and the real physics of the world. So this isn't the Marvel universe. People don't fly, right? This is actually in our reality. It's just in the future on another planet. And so the real physics of the world was important to James Cameron. So this isn't Aquaman, not hanging on wires in front of a fan, blowing in our hair to make it look like we're swimming. Whatever you see on the big screen, we actually were underwater and the actors were doing the scenes themselves. And so this is like a typical training session with Kate Winslet in the tank. So there's this question about how did you get on Avatar. So this is my story, is that I was in Vancouver Airport. I was at the Starbucks. I was waiting for my coffee. And lo and behold, I see James Cameron walk by with a little entourage. And I think, I've got to go meet this guy. I mean, an amazing underwater explorer, a scuba diver. This would be a wasted opportunity. And I'm like, give me my coffee, give me my coffee. And by the time I get it, I can't find him. And so I get on my flight to LA, and sure enough, who's in seat 1A and B but Jim and his wife, Susie? So I go back to steerage class, and I pull out a business card. And on the back of the card, I kind of do a Twitter resume. I do bullet point form, and I say 7 athletes and, SEALs and the Cove and all these different things. And it takes me half the flight to get the courage up to walk up to first class and say, nothing ventured, nothing gained. My name's Kirk, I'm a freediver. And before I could say anything else, he's like, how long can you hold your breath? And for the next 15 minutes, we talked about freediving, we talked about the Cove, we talked about cameras and scooters and all of these different things. Finally, the flight attendant said, get back to steerage class, peasant. And so I went back, and I thought, I wonder if he just looked at the card, said to his wife, oh, nice guy, threw it in the seat in front of him. But 2 years later, I'm in Truck Lagoon in Chuk, and I get an email from a mutual friend who worked with him on the Challenger Deep expedition, where he went to the bottom. And he says, Kirk, answer, this is an email, Kirk, answer your bloody phone. James Cameron's trying to call you about Avatar or the sequels. And I'm like, I thought the best excuse I could give for not answering James Cameron's phone is I'm technical scooter freediving Truck Lagoon, right? So about a month later, I end up in Malibu, and I'm in his living room, and I'm having this interview with him, and he's telling me about the sequels they're going to make, and that number 2 is going to be 60% water, 3 is going to be 30, and 4 and 5 are going to be like 15% water, in the action. And, I talked to him about, he's telling me about this water tribe, and I'm asking him, are they evolved or are they adapted? And he's like, good question. So by the end of 2 hours, and he's asking me how we're going to do this, and I'm saying, I'm going to bring in technical freediving. And by the end of the 2 hours with him, he says, okay, you're hired and you've got the job. And so, that, to me, the thing about this is don't be afraid to lean in. Don't be afraid to walk up to first class and hand out a business card at some point.
Okay, for me, it started with a visit to LA with my mom to visit Dad. And the little tank was just put in, so we were swimming in it. 'Cause it's a pool. What else would you do? And so my mom and I were crawling along the bottom, and my dad was taking a video. And somehow James Cameron saw it. And since Trinity, the girl who plays Took, was iffy in the water, but she got good later, he decided that I would be able to come on and double for her. So at 7, I went on and I had my first fitting, and it's a nice wetsuit. It eventually got dots put on it for motion capture, and on the first day, I went and I stood on the sound stage, and you do all the movements, so make sure it's working. Oh, I can't speak. And it was a lot of fun, and my mom was really hoping I'd get to keep all the little things they gave me. I didn't get to.
So one of the things I had to do on Avatar was being the coach and the trainer, was I had 6 kids and I had 6 adults in the principal cast. Plus I had to train all the cast and crew, right? Or all the crew. And so what was interesting is these kids ranged from 6 to 16 years old. So Trinity was, Kaila's age. And she had a significant water scene. And so there was this idea, could I get her up to speed to do the scene? And so as a backup, sending this video saying to Jim, hey, my daughter could do this scene, and that's where that came into play, right? So that was a great thing for Kaila. But the other thing about working with the casting, or with the cast, is some of the cast their character was supposed to be not so good in the water, but they were actually quite good. And some of the cast, their character was literally supposed to be born in the water, spend their day in the water, yet they had phobias of water. So how do you go about and train that? And so that led to some interesting dynamics on how you do that training, which means you go back to, your whole career that you've been learning and all of these things to try and get these different people, ages and abilities and, phobias or water lovers to get the job done. So one of the things is Bailey Bass right here, okay? I forget her character's name. Anyways, she's the daughter of the chief of the water tribe, the Medicayene. And when I first did auditions for all the kids to see who would be selected for James Cameron, I ranked them. I took them through a pool session, and I graded them 1 to 10. Could they listen? Could they equalize ears? Were they comfortable in the water? Could they do a general breath hold? And I ranked Bailey second from the bottom to do this because she hated water. And so, lo and behold, she gets chosen to be part of the Medicayene kids. So we start into months and months of training, and this unique thing happened that we were training one day, and she hated it. I mean, we would do a training session, and halfway through, she was asking, are we done yet? And so this one day, we're training, and I see that she's doing the longest breath hold she's ever done. And she's actually comfortable about it. She's not having these urges to breathe. And she looks at her Freedive computer, and she sees she's almost at 2 minutes. So I see her look around, like, is anyone seeing this? And she waits, and she gets 2-minute breath hold on her computer at the bottom of the tank, swims to the surface. We do our proper recovery breathing, and just by luck, it was the last dive, and I said, okay, that's it for the session. And she said to me, do we have to get out yet? And I thought, yes, right? We made a transformation. And she went on to do yoga and breathing work and continues to do that to this day. So I think that's a really cool thing.
It was really nice for me to meet Trinity because when we were on set, we became good friends. We spent the whole day just going to the buffet and eating and then doing homework in wetsuits.
Now,
it's a nice day.
Now, here's Kaila at 8 years old, making minimum stunt rate in LA, 7 years old, making $870 US for her day's work. So how do you explain to her that, no, that's not your daily allowance rate from now on for doing your chores at home? Another person, I know this character's name, this is Ronald, this is Kate Winslet. So you might have heard Kate Winslet had the longest breath hold on the set, and she did a 7-minute and 15-second breath hold. But she used a 50% nitrox mix, so technical freediving. And we use technical freediving to really take care of any issues with hypoxia. But another thing that was interesting, other than the breath hold, was just the daily training that we would go through. And I would get the cast, sometimes multiple cast members, sometimes one cast member. And here's Kate and I, we're practicing a scene. I don't think this scene has actually been in number 2 yet, so I'm not going to ruin it, but you can imagine this is probably going to be in Fire and Ash coming up in number 3, so imagine what's happening. And we would have been we didn't use technical freediving or breathing oxygenated mixtures all the time, because you want to use that like your ace up your sleeve. So this would probably be an air breath hold that we were doing. Now, you can follow along how long it's been so far. And what would happen is that the cast would, after we've trained in all of the academics and some of the basic skills, and then we're just training to adapt the body, then what we're doing is we're training the scene. And so we have a particular scene we're practicing at this point. And geez, I wonder what it is we're doing, right? And so it was really quite amazing. But when we did use the nitrox mixtures, it allowed us, number one, to remove hypoxic potential. So last thing you want to do is black out Kate Winslet on a shoot day, right? $5 million shoot day, and you black out your main star. So we use elevated oxygen mixtures for that. But it also allows them to do a lot more comfortable breath hold, right? They're supposed to be in their character. They're supposed to be like acting, and the last thing you want is them looking like they have this urge to breathe. And so it also allowed us to turn around and recover a lot quicker. So give you an idea, this is still going on. This is going to be over 2.5 minutes long. This is like an average training that we did. And on one scene with Sigourney Weaver, she did a scene, if you remember in Avatar 2, The Way of Water, her if you've seen it, Who's seen Avatar 2, The Way of Water? This is a diving crowd. I better see a lot of hands. Okay, there's a scene where her character is like putting all these squid through a wreck, and she did that scene for 4.5 minutes, right? Now, it was a long scene, and there was action to it, so we used an 80% nitrox mix to have a little bit more oomph in which to get the scene done. So, yeah, that's a little bit about Avatar and our experiences on it, and coming back to just diving as a family, and including Mom in that as well. Sometimes I'm on my rebreather, sometimes Kaila's freediving or a scuba diver, and so it really is an amazing thing.
And don't forget to go watch Avatar Fire and Ash in theaters December 19th.
Thank you, everyone.